Topping today's news, Prime Minister Philip Davis meets with petroleum dealers. Male students dominate this year's national high school exams. A former ambassador and legendary journalist, Ed Bethel, passes away, and a man charged in court with the recent double homicide on the Fox Hill Community Park. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Last week, there were fears by motorists that gas stations would close their doors in protest to the government's recent position on their request to have the margins on their earnings per gallon of gas increase from the current 54 cents per gallon. The last increase for the petroleum dealers was in 2011, when the margin was raised from 44 cents to 54 cents per gallon. Prime Minister Philip Davis and Economic Minister Michael Halkitis met with the Bahamas Petroleum Retailers Association on Monday to discuss the long-standing disagreements on an increase of those margins. While sharing details on the meeting, Prime Minister Davis says the dealers are questioning their survivability because of inflation.
A lot of the challenges that they face, I'm sympathetic to, and I understand their need to survive. I've asked them to give us another 2 weeks to assess the situation, see how we could help them. The challenge we have is how we prevent further burden on the traveling public. And we need to see how we could delicately balance bringing relief to them and at the same time not overly burdening the consumers. And that's what we're talking about. And I must say that the retailers are willing and have been talking with us, and it was a cordial. And I do sometimes frustration does guide some people's tongue, but I can say that the meeting that we had several hours yesterday was fruitful.
The government has agreed to explore other avenues to bring some relief to the retailers. For his part, Minister Halkitis says the dealers presented the government with a proposal that will be studied and a decision will be made.
Over the overall concern of the government is anything that would cause an immediate increase in gas at the pumps for consumers. And as you know, it's not only consumers, it's business people, for example, who have vehicles, and so any of those increases would trickle right down. And so we resolved to go away. They presented us with a proposal. We will study it. We resolved to look at the entire system of how fuel is purchased by retailers and then resold to consumers. So the entire importation, the wholesaling, and down to the retailing, and what can be done anywhere along that chain to bring some relief to them. But again, while maintaining that in a world of inflation where it's seemingly everything is going up, the government is not minded to do something that would directly lead to an increase in prices at the pump. And so we continue to talk.
The government collects approximately $1.60 for every gallon of gas that is sold. And in addition to rising electricity costs and increased cost in wages and overall increase in cost of operating their gas stations, the petroleum dealers say they are struggling to make ends meet. Prime Minister Davis says he thinks the two sides should be able to arrive at a solution that serves the common good of all. Students across the country from both public and private institutions were recognized, lauded, and awarded for outstanding achievements in National Examinations 2022, including subjects under the Bahamas Junior Certificate, BJC, and the Bahamas General Certificate of Secondary Education, BGCSEs. While female students have been having better results in recent times, this year male students dominated the national exams. During the award ceremony at the William Johnson Auditorium on Joe Farrington Road on Monday, Education, Technical, and Vocational Training Minister Glennis Hannah Martin praised the high achievers.
These young people have produced at such a high level in the backdrop of perhaps the most challenging time in the history of education, brought on by the widespread fallout of the COVID-19 virus. This makes their achievements all the more praiseworthy and admirable. And while we focus on the end, the results, we cannot overshadow the long journey that brought these young people to this place. Their refusal to accept mediocrity, their appetite for knowledge, and the competitive edge which catapulted them to a finish line of excellence.
There was a four-way tie for the Carol Hanna Awards for the best BGCSE results in the independent schools and the Paul Adderley Awards for the most outstanding BGCSE results in the entire country. Those students included Alexis Gadet, St. Augustine's College, Ellie Sawyer, Arjun Shetty, and Daniel Williams, all of Queens College, the four students attaining all A's in 11 subjects. The Marjorie Davis Award for the best BGCSE results for the public schools went to Kajaro Tucker of the 8 Mile Rock High School out of Grand Bahama. Minister Hannah Martin encouraging all students to continue to develop and cultivate the qualities that have pushed them to excellence so far.
Always remember the source of all things. But you also bring honor and pride not just to your deserving selves, but to your parents, who have no doubt been pivotal to your success through their unconditional love and support. Your teachers and administrators who have trained and mentored you, and all the others who participated in some shape or form in your achievements. And finally, you bring honor to a proud nation. Always remember that your success is not simply a selfish or self-serving process, but the sum total and a collective outcome in which many have shared, and that in all things give thanks. Your journey must build character, ground you in ethical underpinnings, and provide you with optimism and hope, so that you may go on and do things which we in this generation never imagined, so that the world may mark the manner of your bearing.
Other top awardees included Thomas Gadet from South Andrews High School and Pablo Enrique Smith from Ellen Coakley High School on Exuma. They received Best Subject Awards in BGCSE for electrical installation, music, and Spanish, respectively. A police officer allegedly beat several male primary school students of the Bimini Primary School last week Friday. In a statement from the Ministry of Education, it says the matter will result in swift and appropriate action. While the ministry did not elaborate on the discipline, one parent reportedly said her son was beaten so badly that his bruises were black and blue, and she was told he should seek medical attention here in the capital. Additionally, the Ministry of National Security has been requested to investigate the allegations against the officer. Today, Minister of National Security Wayne Monroe told reporters that the officer was transferred to New Providence for investigation.
The event happened when the Commissioner of Police and the ACP Crime and I were attending the Northern Caribbean Security Summit in Doral. The officer has been transferred from Bimini for community relations, and the police will now investigate. If there's a report of a criminal offense, they'll investigate that matter. Well, there are two types of repercussions a police officer can face where there's an allegation of misconduct. There are disciplinary ramifications, which are freestanding from criminal ramifications, and then there's aspects of criminal culpability. So the police can be put before a court. They might be found guilty, not guilty. Even if they're found not guilty, there are disciplinary standards that don't rise to the level of a crime, but still can call for an officer to be disciplined.
When asked if police have the authority to beat or discipline rude or disrespectful children, Minister Monroe explained the police have a community policing function.
I imagine that the Ministry of Education would be carrying out an investigation as to what has happened, and the Royal Bahamas Police Force will as well. If it is a school where there are issues with the student population, the police force now has what I'd like to call school resource officers who are deployed to schools. These officers have particular training to be in a school environment. And so that would be an issue as well. When it was brought to my attention, one of my concerns, apart from the commissioner transferring the officer, is whether there was a need to send a school resource officer to Bimini if there's an issue in that school. I've not heard anything further on it. I know that I've been notified that there are at least one school in Abaco that may require a school resource officer, and there may be others through the Commonwealth.
He reminded that there are resource officers available throughout the police force and the defense force who are trained to interact with children if schools require assistance, but it should be done in a formalized way. During the mid-year budget debate last week, Minister of State with responsibility for the National Insurance Board, Miles LaRota, reiterated the deteriorating Social Security Fund and warned of a total collapse if the contribution rate is not increased. He says NIB is projected to lose $98 million alone this year. Some members of the public suggest that the government go after businesses that are delinquent in their NIB payments to make up for the loss in funds. Although he announced last week that greater compliance among employers is needed, he told reporters that the problem is not delinquent businesses. He says the issue is the contribution rate cannot handle the number of people collecting national insurance benefits, and going after employers alone will not be nearly enough to replenish the NIB funds.
The problem is we have 43,000 people collecting national insurance benefits. The contribution rate now just cannot adequately address that. We are millions and millions and millions of dollars off per month. I said before, the National Insurance Board is not subsidized by the Bahamas government. It will be able to sustain itself on contributions, investments, or rentals. We are just at the point, and the 11th actuarial report said, but the other report said, dating back to early 2000, and that is we're having less kids, our pensioners are living longer, and we have to find a way. We've had one rate increase in going on 50 years.
Minister LaRota explained that contributing factors that caused the rate increase is not attributed to any outside factor or any government.
And so to those who say, well, if we collect this amount of money here, all leakage that is plugged, it's a benefit, but we are just at this point. And I invite the public, don't just listen to me. Go and read the report. It's there for the public to see, and you will see what has been said over the past decades as it relates to the fund and the income that's being taken in and monies that are being paid out. It's as simple as that.
When asked if there will be any laws or new initiatives to prevent a further depletion of the funds in the future, the minister says there have been recommendations by the board for multiple rate increases.
Like I said, one increase is not going to save the fund. Two increases is not going to save the fund. And I don't want to appear to be, cold, but that is just the reality of the hands that we have been dealt. And so if the fund is going to be there for the next 50 years, then measures are going to have to be put in place. I don't think there'll be any appetite in this country now to cut the benefits that are paid to our pensioners. A lot of them, that is the only source of income that they may have. And so we're going to have to find, other ways to keep the fund going.
Minister LaRota said the government has already made a decision as it relates to the NIB funds, and the plan that is expected to benefit all Bahamians will be announced to the public very soon. And finally, in this segment, veteran broadcaster and former Bahamian diplomat Eldred Ed Bethel died on Monday evening at his home, surrounded by family and friends, leaving an indelible mark on the country. Mr. Bethel, described as an icon in the field of journalism, began his career at the Tribune under the guidance of Sir Etienne Depuch and Sir Arthur Folkes, and then as a broadcaster and exceptional journalist at ZNS. His contribution to journalism in the Bahamas cannot be overstated, according to Prime Minister Philip Davis, who reminisced on his life and legacy, saying Mr. Bethel's passing is a great loss to the nation.
I recall very vividly his involvement in coordinating the broadcasting efforts to mark the independence of the Bahamas in 1973. Him, Charles Carter, and Carl Bethel did an excellent job of informing and keeping the Bahamian public up to date on what was going on in that event. That was a signature moment for me in listening to Ed. And also, I recall his is commentating on the world title fight that Elisha Obed won in France when he won the world welterweight boxing middleweight championship, and his calling of that and his exuberance when Obed was really pummeling Miguel, I think his name Miguel Oliveira, to take the belt, and how he just got carried away and just, oh Lord, he's killing him, he's killing him, he's killing him. That was a signature voice at that time.
As a remarkable diplomat, Mr. Bethel was one of the faces of the Bahamas on the international stage, serving the Bahamas in several capacities, including Consul General, High Commissioner, and Ambassador. Prime Minister Davis noting that these posts all serve as testaments to his commitment to public service and his unwavering dedication to the country.
He became the face of our country when he became the Consul General in New York, and thereafter High Commissioner in London, and then Ambassador to the European Union for the Bahamas. And he served this country well, keeping our face on the world map in promoting and strengthening the relationships of our country with other countries that he served. And he'll be sadly missed. So again, on behalf of myself and my wife, my family, I extend my sincere condolences to the family of Ed Bethel. He will be sadly missed. Don, my prayers remains with you.
We here at JCN express our deepest condolences to the Bethel family. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.